Perfect. All right, welcome.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was on time, I forgot my cell phone, I had to go back home.
Oh, wow. I hung on by a thread. All right, so we did just start the recording, so you're perfect timing. We're just getting started. We had some technical difficulties, so
Technical difficulties.
so Michelle's gonna be doing notes. That's why we are recording this meeting.
Okay.
All right, so the first item up is reviewing our audit committee timeline. So as part of this, we like to talk about what our future dates are. We don't have a timeline in here, but at the number 6, just so you can see, we have our February 9th meeting coming up, and then the May 11th meeting. Our plan, our big discussion, I would anticipate at the February 9th meeting is talking about the OSC audit. I'll save conversation around that till number 4. But that's a big anticipation for the February 9th. And then in the May meeting, we'll be meeting with our external auditors again. So we come full circle yet again, and we'll be meeting with Mike and Amy. They're still, as part of our 5-year RFP, Weston Company are still doing the audit. So we'll meet with Mike and Amy. I would anticipate it being Mike and Amy. I would hope it is at the May meeting. That's our timeline. Next item up is the audit committee meeting highlights. That is in your packet. You'll see the first items in there are those minutes from our October 13th meetings. Before I get a motion, any questions, comments, concerns?
Make the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item up is our corrective action plan. So this is worked on by Christine, myself, and Dr. Davey to come up with a corrective action plan based on the auditor's findings. Our audit report was clean. There were no findings in our audit report, but as part of our management letter, they did have some comments and recommendations for approving. So as part of the management letter process, we come up with a corrective action plan. Number 1 and 2 were items that we did address. So those were prior year findings. They said we addressed them, so there is no corrective action plan needed for 1 and 2. Those are taken care of by our team. So really, we're looking at 2 findings that we want to address in this school year. We plan to address in this school year. We typically do take management comments to be priority items to take care of and address, and this is no different. So the first one was an issue with our cafeteria purchases when we took on the CV Tech feeding last school year. That drove our purchasing way up. Our number of meals served were significantly higher when you add in 600 more kids a day when we typically serve just over 100. So that drove us over purchasing limits and would have put us to a bid threshold. So as the audit was happening, we did realize this with the auditors. Our purchasing agent was able to find the contract for the food vendor on state contract. So therefore, we don't even need the bidding requirement anymore. So what we did is we took that information, we shared it with all the school districts, we shared it with Julie Holbrook because the school she oversees, and said, hey, by the way, we know you serve more food than we do, and you are up against bidding requirements anyway. And we've already shared that with all of our component school districts to try to help them. So this management letter actually helped us share with school districts some things that they weren't aware of. And it gives purchasing flexibility for cafeterias. So that one's been addressed. We don't expect it to be an issue this year, given the operation of our cafeteria. So moving to number 4 was the time cards and payroll process. We started the electronic time card process and transition in 2019. It was really the summer of 2019 was our first year doing it. For special education, our big priority there was summer school is all by timesheet. So every employee we hire for summer school and special ed is done by timesheet. So we figured that would be ideal. Let's roll them out first. And then we would roll out the rest throughout the year as we progress through it. March of 20, COVID hit. Everything completely eroded as part of that plan, and we put it on the back burner. The auditors are saying bring that back to the forefront, get it done, because you're running a paper system, you're running an electronic system, which Brenda's been doing a fantastic job with it. Brenda Prue, our payroll clerk, and our team have been doing a fantastic job with it. But now it's time to get the completion, and we agree with them. Our team agreed. So we are working to transition, and just so you're aware, what's left is management services and district office is our plan to transition them next. That is inclusive of our cafeteria services and every part of our coasters within management services, except for O&M. And they're going to be our last transition because they're our most challenging because of the limited access to a computer and such. So we're working with Alex right now to resolve that matter. And then we are transitioning CV Tech as well as part of this process to get them to electronic timesheets. So you are aware, ISC was done in 1920. So we went special ed, then ISC, and then we were put on the COVID hold, as I'll call it. So we're working on that. And our plan is to process that over the spring time of 2020 and get that completed. The last part of this recommendation was for backup in our payroll department, because right now we have we'd be okay. We could probably survive a few payrolls, but we don't have a true person that could run our payroll from start to finish and know it like Brenda does. So we're kind of that one person knows all and knows the process. So the auditors are recommending have someone cross-trained in payroll. Dr. Davey, Christine, and myself have had conversations with some of our current staff on potentially reallocating some of their work to make a current staff member or members who are very strong in our management services team to become that backup to payroll. So our hope is that this spring we're making a recommendation to the board on what that looks like. But we've already begun those discussions and planning process to have something in place by the end of the year, but we're going to need board support because it could be looking at moving someone from an account clerk typist to maybe a payroll and purchasing clerk to fulfill that requirement. It's something that Dr. Davey's been saying to me, over the last couple of years that we need it. Christine and I have been having conversations along the way as well to meet that expectation of Dr. Davey, and now the auditors have put it in writing. We want to accomplish that by the end of the school year. Yep.
And I'll just add too, and we've even had some conversations about not only internally, but having an external organization be able to do a backup payroll for us as well. And there was a time, I believe, that at some point in the past, where FEH BOCES assisted or was able to, could have done a payroll. I know that's something that Myers we've talked about at some point during my tenure here and having that capacity in case there was ever a catastrophic, issue that happened within CVS, so that we could actually have another agency. And many times districts will do it for each other or have the capacity for each other. I know that's something that would be a long-term goal to be able to put in place as well. So it would really be a third option. But first is the internal and getting our house in a good place, which we've got great people who we believe we can train. Brenda, we have a phenomenal payroll person who really knows it inside and out. But we also want to make sure that, we have that redundancy.
Yeah, and all 37 BOCES pretty much are using our accounting software, so it's not like school districts where they have multiple different softwares they may use. So all 37 do. Many BOCES have shared business offices, so they're familiar with WinCap, they're familiar with how it works. So I think getting one of them on board, it would be a pretty seamless transition.
It makes it much easier.
Yes, and you sleep a little bit better knowing that several people are working with your same program, doing the same thing on a regular basis. So one thing I just wanted to add on the corrective action plan, and I hadn't caught it, that somebody, I was at a BOCES wide meeting last week. And at that meeting, they often share kind of things that are changing, things they're running into. One of the things that did come up was with the corrective action plans. Some of them have had their corrective action plans kicked back because the state comptroller's office is wanting us to be more specific on timelines. As you can put in here, see in here, like for the time sheet thing, we did put in, we hope to have that done by the end of the year. Supposedly some have been kicked back. If you have any kind of responses that don't have specific timeframes, I guess they've been kicking them back. So we might just have to tweak this just a little bit to add some dates and some estimated dates in there. But that's the only change in that I could see. And that was just something that was brought to our attention. So
my argument to them has been that we're living in the middle of a pandemic and thinking that we can predict what the spring looks like. I think we're crazy to say that we can. But we're gonna do everything we can to get this done, but in the middle of a pandemic, we don't know what the spring's gonna bring, and we're preparing for all options.
No, it's gonna bring the Omicron variant.
That's right. So we're bracing for that, but, you know, to the best we can, we're gonna get this done. Yeah.
I heard,
Yeah.
my wife read today that St. Lawrence County just declared a state of emergency. I think Franklin has too.
And there was a press conference today as well for Clinton County.
Was there?
Yes, and we supported it with our communications department and with their live streaming, but I will be sharing, and I just received it when I was driving in, from Megan Manson, a link to their press conference that I can share with the board too.
No CDPH is on the list of those hospitals that are supposed to stop all elective procedures, so meaning they have less than 10%
Yeah.
capacity available. That's
I'm gonna
capacity.
say that's wrong.
No, I believe it's wrong because actually they're not overrun with COVID patients.
It's not a question of that, it's just a question, these people need those procedures, even though it's, you know. And I know it because when this hit, I can say this, my wife is gonna kill me, but she has a cyst on her ovary. She was supposed to go to Burlington to get thrown away and COVID hit,
Mhm.
and she still has. been
Because it
able
was
to-
considered a what?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, who was gonna go from here to Burlington with COVID the way it was, you know? And their numbers are way up. I mean, she
Like you
just had
said,
another.
nobody really
ultrasound
can
and stuff.
predict what we're
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I know that my program, they have made the decision already. Next semester is completely online.
Wow.
We're not going to campus at all.
Wow.
I'm not sure how I'm going to learn how to suture
That'd
online, but that's okay.
I want to be your first patient post-college.
Yeah.
They do say it's the practice of medicine.
There's actually a vendor, I guess you could call it, that travels around and gives that course.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but this is, I have to be certified. I'm going for a nurse practitioner's
No,
license.
that's what I'm talking about. My daughter just took the course. She's a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And she went down to Queens for this, that was offering this particular
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
So
we mean
you-
like as an additional, yeah. I can see myself probably trying to find a course.
Because just by coincidence.
Because where
you
I'm
know,
going
you
to
mentioned
practice
that,
is,
and
suturing will be
She
very
just came
important.
back from taking the course.
Nice.
It's, so you can do it.
Yeah.
They're out there walking around trying to move their needle.
especially
needle and
nowadays.
thread.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, but like you said, we just have no idea what we are going to be looking at the spring come January. Who even knows, at this point.
Yeah, and that's why we're intentionally vague in here. And like Christine said, they could come back and tell us, but we come to the board. Our intent's not to be vague to the board. Our intent is to be vague because of the pandemic.
Yep.
We will need a recommendation to go to the board. The board's taking action on this tonight. Dr. David did include it in his, with his board pack and everything, so the board's seen it. But they will approve this tonight, so then Christine can submit that. And I think you submitted, Dr. Davy approves it through the portal. So, if there is a motion, or if there's questions, I'm happy to answer more.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item up is our state comptroller's audit update. So Kevin has been working with us now for let's call this the second round to do that. So you may recall they were auditing us in the fall. I'm losing track of time here. It wasn't the fall, it was the spring. Yes, so they were auditing with us in the spring, and then we had to move offices. We went to ISC, and some of management services went to this main building, and in that culinary arts lab. At that time, the comptroller's office made a decision, all right, we're not going to audit from home. We're going to move to a different audit. We got other things to go on. We'll pause. When you get to your final resting spot, call us. We'll come back. So Kevin's been with us a little over 4 weeks now. Kevin Rowland is the state comptroller auditor working with us, so I call him Kevin, but Kevin Rowland, been working there a long time. Fantastic, very knowledgeable. He's a great resource to have in our building. I will say it is very a lot of time on our staff. It's a lot of pressure on our staff. It really is a stressful environment right now because of some of the data mining he's doing, but he is phenomenal at what he does, and he's very patient as well, and great to work with. So he's been with us now, the second round, we'll call it time 2, for 4 weeks. And talking with him today, he goes, well, really, it's only been 5 days on your job. He goes, because I'm doing so many different audits that become a high priority from the main office, and we now start to work on those, and I'm getting pulled in 5 or 6 different directions. So he's been here 4 weeks this second time around, but it really, it's only been 5 days. He was hopeful to only be here a month or two, but now he's anticipating more end of January is when he'll wrap up with CVS. So I asked him if he had a focus area yet. He doesn't. So just of the process, in the spring, they reviewed all of our ERS. So employee retirement system, everybody's signing up for ERS. They looked at everything, all of our books for a number of years. I asked them for a summary. We haven't received it yet, but we should be getting a summary soon. I would expect in the next couple of weeks, I would hope. I asked him again today and he was surprised they hadn't sent it yet on how that ERS portion turned out. They'll kind of break into two. Now, since he's been back, he's looked at our cash management processes. He's looked at our IT, completely reviewed our whole IT department, everything we do with our technology. Now he's reviewing payroll, benefits, purchasing, our financials. He is going through everything. So if there's money tied to it, he's looking at it. That's his current action. He's trying to find an area to focus on. So basically, what they're doing is he's mining everything, looking at everything. If there's a red flag, he's going to focus all of his attention there, and he's going to dig deep as he can go until he stops having findings. Right now, there is nothing falling in any direction. We're not expecting any red flags. When that happens, he just picks an area. They then have to pick an area to have an audit to focus on a certain item. When we know that, we'll share it. But right now, there is no specific focus. He's just pretty much looking at everything. But throughout this process, he might find small things. And when he finds those small things, he comes to us. We have a great conversation about it. We go through the process, see what happened, if we agree or disagree on it. And we have found some very, very small items, and we've been able to look at our process, did something fall through the cracks? So we need to make adjustments. And he's actually helped with that process to talk us through it. What's your recommendation? What do you see? And then working with Christine, our management services team, as well as Dr. Davey, we address those as they come up. But nothing noteworthy to date, and we'll see where it leads. And I'm expecting more of a full, thorough update in February. I don't know that we'll have a final report, but we should have an idea of what those findings would be, if there are any, at that time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Are these audits kind of constant, or like, they could start the process and then a rule changes perhaps or something? How do they adjust for that? Or does it?
Yep.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. So he originally is looking at a 3-year period, the 3 prior years at the time of when he had started.
And it's according to their state controller's rules.
Okay, so as far as an audit focus goes, they can do it. It doesn't matter.
They have rules that we're supposed to comply with this.
Yes, so they're auditing the laws, rules, and
What
regulations.
happens between the time they start an audit and do rules occasionally or often or ever change between that period? You know what I mean?
Rarely. The biggest thing dictating is really local board policy. That changes more frequently than at the state level. So that's one thing, and he does look at that. He looks at our board policies. That's one of the first things they do to see if there was a change in any of our financial portion of our board policies. We didn't have any, so that was a good piece of this. But that does happen from occasion to occasion. Our contracts have changed, so he works from both contracts as he's looking at different periods of time, because we do have some changes in our contracts. So he does all that. I mean, he maintains massive spreadsheets on years and changes of contracts. And so, yes, it does happen. And by the time he's done, I think it'll be a combined probably 5 years. He didn't look at 5 school years of everything, but if you looked at the ERS plus everything he's looking at now, it'll probably span about 5 school years.
I just, how things change. I was just wondering how it impacts the ultimate outcome of any particular audit.
Yeah.
The other thing was, do they look at, does it overlap the West findings, or it has nothing to do with West audits?
So he does look at our audit reports. So they review our audit reports, they see all of them, they see the findings. And what they do there is sometimes that's low hanging fruit. So they may be able to look at a financial report, not just from their findings, but the whole financials to see, should we target in any of these areas? He hasn't identified those as a target area based on the West findings, but they can overlap. So we'll have to see where he puts his focus as
Yeah.
part of this audit. Yep.
Probably a good thing because we usually come out pretty clean with
Yeah.
their plan.
Yeah, I mean, low hanging fruit in a BOCES is limited. In a district, typically you target the 4% tax, unrestricted fund balance that you're allowed to have. You'll target the reserves, in school districts. Those are usually your items. And then the tax cap they usually look at that as well.
Thank you.
Kristen, you were gonna add something in. Might have cut you off, so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Any other questions on our comptroller audit? Okay. Many thanks to Christine and her work with Kevin. She deals with them all day, every day, while also training a new accountant, and another accountant who is out for the time being. So yes, you've been busy, and I appreciate your work with Mr. Rowland, and he's been very appreciative of you getting him stuff timely, and he's complimentary of the work of our managed services staff. So, and Christine is a big part of that. So.
Yes, good question.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
She's kept us on the straight and narrow for years.
She's never allowed to retire.
Well, I said, I'll tease here, but I say, well, in about 9 years, you may want me to, I'm not sure how I will have left by then, but I will go as long as I can.
We won't put that in the minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Next item up is our internal audit exemption, and Christine's gonna fill us in on that.
Okay, well, basically, as you probably recall, for a number of years now, I've really been coming to you and talking to you about how we've qualified for the internal audit exemption, which I believe was if you had less than 1,500 students in your school. It never ever specifically said BOCES, but it said school, that you could exempt yourself from the internal audit. Years ago, when it first came out, we had started with that, then they came out with the exemption. We jumped on board, we submit every year. However, somebody somewhere, probably at home during COVID, reading documents, looked at the nitty gritty detail and said, hey, BOCES don't qualify for this exemption. Because a majority of BOCES, as we discussed it also last week at our meeting, qualify for that exemption because most don't have that kind of enrollment unless they're very big. So many of them were claiming the exemption. So they've now come out with information that says, BOCES, sorry, but you were never exempt and you may now have your internal audit every year, regardless of your enrollment size. So what they did do is they gave us the benefit of the doubt, and they didn't say you had to do it this year because obviously many BOCES did not budget that number. They said, however, you need to do your RFP in order to implement it for the 22-23 school year. So roughly on average, that internal audit can run anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 is kind of the number as BOCES started looking, saying, hey, what is everybody paying? Because we don't know where we would start. And that is in line kind of with where we were 7-8 years ago when we had to do it. So we will be working on an RFP. Probably after the holidays, we'll start putting it together. That is another thing in February when we meet. We'll probably be bringing that to you, whether we'll have the RFP out and respondents at that time, or we'll have it in May. All just depends on kind of what happens between now and then. But definitely by the May meeting, we'll have to make a recommendation to the board to appoint an internal auditor for the next school year. And basically what will happen is the state comptroller will finish his stuff, hopefully. And then we'll have the internal auditor, which will do the exact same thing as the state comptroller.
Yep.
Okay.
They look at the same year.
Yes. Even the state comptroller, when he came in, I was talking to this and I said, Christine, what are you talking about? And I'm like, did you not see the memo? We have this beautiful memo from state ed. And I'm like, oh, you didn't get it. So I had to send it to him. He was not aware of it. And he even said it was ridiculous that BOCES, schools and BOCES have to do this every single year. Because basically it's like having your state comptroller auditor in there every year. The internal audits will basically usually just change focus every year. So when they first come in and they first do their deep dive and they evaluate everything, they'll pick the main focus area, which more likely to be payroll. And then each year they'll kind of ask the audit committee for what, if they have an area they'd like them to audit. And each year they'll basically just kind of pick a different area and then rotate. But the fee really kind of stays pretty steady. So that's gonna be a kind of a big hit to our admin budget. So that you'll be kind of seeing, but yeah, so that's kind of where we'll be going. So that we'll be bringing that to you in the next few months. And starting that process. So.
Yeah, so, and just to weigh in a little bit, so when it came out, I know I did share this document, you may have seen, it may look familiar in our November 19th transmittal packet. It was one of those things where I mentioned, I listed it as one of the attachments. You'll notice in the memo, it says it does not fit with any exemptions about the BOCES. Utilizing this exemption does not fit within any exemptions identified in law. So there has been a significant turnover within the department. Many of the operations are now being looked at through a fresh set of lenses. And so there's new interpretations on a number of items. And I think, Mrs. Myers, you're finding this, I think, in probably some of the business office communications. Mr. Bell, I know you have, and as a DS, that conversation has been had repeatedly. It has been some pushback from some of the district superintendents that are pushing back on this in terms of to say, you know, that the interpretation needs to be reexamined. So it is something where some of my colleagues have identified this as an area that is of concern. And the fact that this is becoming a strict interpretation of the law when it's been applicable. And I mean, the question is, for example, if we use the 1,500 students as a standard, you know, speaking of the career and technical students in special education, we would not have that many. If you include part-time adult students that take a couple of hours or a GED, we might not meet that standard, but I think it would be something where we would look at it with a little closer lens. So we'll definitely, if there are any changes, we can let you know, but I think at this point, the anticipation is that we'll need to include it in the budget for next year, as Christina was saying.
And it is that admin budget piece.
Right.
Of 10 to 15,000.
Right, just add more to the admin budget, so districts can say, why is your admin budget so
Right.
high?
So, you know, it's retirees, that's the big thing. You know that.
Hopefully maybe they'll come back with a every 3 years plan. That would be, I think.
I mean, every year seems a bit, every year seems a bit excessive.
Yeah.
Every year is where, yeah, it's excessive.
Oh, so this is still in a process of evolution or whatever.
Well, as of this document, it's set,
But they're
but
gonna
they may
continue to take it up.
change some regulations. They may reword it. That stuff may come. I know NASBO is on it and working with them, with the state to try to lobby to
Oh,
get some kind of accommodation or leniency, you know, not every year kind of thing.
I see.
But they're not sure how quickly that will happen. So we will proceed as if it's happening. We might just wait to a point until later in the year in case something goes.
That was for the budget.
We will budget for it, yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
There goes my help. No.
Right, which is really good, right? Next item up was just future meeting dates, and we had touched on that. So I'll give this an opportunity to open up to the committee for any questions, comments, discussion items that they may have.
Keep up the good work.
We're trying.
Excellent. All right, we got about 5:35, if that's right. Yes. We'll take a motion if we have one.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
The budget.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. 5:35. Dinner will be served at 6, right, Dr. Davies? Is it 6?
Start seating and then
Excellent.
Yeah, numbers are a little bit smaller this year, but the room looks great. They're setting it up and